Now we're going to work with parameters and reference planes. So if I go to a front view for a generic model, I see it's got one reference level. It's already got a center plane, which is pinned in place. Center plane left to right. If I go to a right view, it's got a center plane front to back. It's also labeled front to back. So I'm going to go up to my reference level, and I can see both center planes showing like an X. These planes you really don't want to move, and you want to leave them as is and pinned in place. We can create more reference planes by going to create reference plane. I'm going to put 2 on either side here. And then I use my dimension tools, and let's say I want to make these 2 planes I made on the left and right equal distance around the center. If I wanted to make an object centered about the left-right plane. And now we want to add on a dimension for the overall width of this thing. And I'm going to set this to 4 feet. Now, can't edit it. There we go, 3 feet is good enough. So now I can see when I move this, it stays centered about the left and right. And you can also rename your planes by clicking on them. You click to name, or you can do it through its properties. I'm going to make this one on the left, and this one over here right. So now when I click on the names, it says left and right, and then when I'm in the front view, I can also see there's those 2 planes, left, the properties, and right as well. Now we can add parameters to make it so when we load these families into a project, we have the ability to adjust those parameters. So I'm going to say this is going to be a width from left to right. So I'm going to go to the family types button here, which will open up our parameters dialog. So I click on this. It says family types. And then this is where we enter our parameters for our file. These are kind of like variables. We've got an edit, a new parameter, delete, and we can reorder the parameters manually or alphabetically. So I can go to new parameter, and I got this dialog. We can give a parameter name. These are alphanumeric characters. I'm going to call this W for width. Discipline, we're going to set this to common. And then it's important to choose what type of parameter this is. We have different ways of creating these. We can create them on the fly. We can create them ahead of time. But it's important to make sure the type of parameter is selected. So this is going to be a length that we want to make for the width of this thing. And the group is more of a organizational method. So this is a dimensional type thing, so I'm going to leave it under dimension. We also have the option of a type parameter or an instance parameter. The difference being, if you remember when you're placing windows, sill height is an instance parameter because you can have the same type of window placed many times but having different elevations within a project. So that's for every instance the window is placed, it can have a different sill height. So that's an instance parameter where a type is such as the width of the window or the actual how high the window is itself, how tall. And those are type parameters. So this is very important to understand the difference between a type and an instance. More than likely, most of the time, it's going to be a type parameter for most of your items that you create. So I'm going to leave this as W, common, discipline, length, and dimension. Hit OK. Hit OK. Now I'm going to select my dimension, and now I have the option for where it says label here. If I do the drop down, I can see that W W that I created. Right now it says it's equal to 0. Since it's a 0 and it has no value set for it, it's going to adopt the value that's currently here. So now W is equal to 3. I can go back to my parameters dialog box, shrink this up a little bit. Now if I hit set it to 2 and apply it, you can see it's adjusting my two work planes from one another. Back to 3 and apply. Another way to create parameters is on the fly. So I'm going to create another set of work planes. Move these dimensions out of the way. I'm going to create one down in front. So I'm going to make an object that's kind of like based, its center point is in the back of it. So let's say it's a footprint for a plotter. So you might want to move it into place, not necessarily rotate around the center, but rotate around its back of the plotter. So now I'm going to create this footprint and give it a dimension. And I'm going to set this to 1.5 feet. Now, instead of creating the parameter ahead of time, I'm going to select the dimension. And where it says label, there's a button at the end, and this will allow us to create the parameter right away. So now it's actually automatically selecting the type of parameter already, because it's a dimension of a length, so we can't choose anything else. So it's going to automatically select that for you. I'm going to call this the depth D front to back. So it's assigned it and given the value and created the parameter in one shot. It's a little faster to do this way sometimes, but you don't get the chance to organize the values. Now it's going to create a height for this thing. So I'm going to look at the front. I'm going to create another reference plane. And add a dimensional height to it. Modify it, select the dimension, create a parameter, H for height in this case. So now I can go back to my parameters here. I can make the height 3, width 4, depth 2, let's say. So it's moving all my planes around. Now let's give this thing some shape. Let's say we're going to create one of those big floor standing plotters, or some generic shape of it. So I'm going to create the top portion of it first from the right side. I'm going to look at this from the right. Let's say we have, I'm just going to do very boxy extrusions for the first time. The extrusion, box. I'm drawing the shape from the intersection of these 2 points, and then green checking it. Now, I can adjust it, see what the depth does, 0.5. You can see it shrinks it front to back, and the square goes with it. I can change the height. See it moves up and down. Now the box is staying the same, height, thickness, top to bottom, and it just moves it all up and down. Now we want to put maybe 2 little narrow rectangular legs on the side of the thing. Let's go to our front. Now I'm looking at the front here. I see the thing's not going to the 2 planes on the left and right, or my left and right planes. So I can drag this one grip till it snaps to one of the planes and let go, and I see a padlock. If I lock that, it should now stay with that plane. I'm going to try the one on the left. It may work, it may not if I don't lock it, but let's see what happens. So go to the width, set to 5, and apply. Oops. 5. So you see the one I locked moved, the one I did not lock did not move. So it's important to sometimes lock these to a plane. So now when I adjust it, it adjusts accordingly. Now we're going to put 2 legs on either side of this, like I was talking about. I can create from the front. Let's see here. Let's do create. Let's do an extrusion, and I'm going to put 2 profiles in here in one shot. So you'll see a bunch of padlocks popped up. If I want this line to be locked to this line, I'm going to say lock it. And the same thing for the left and right and bottom. Now the width of the leg, I can put a dimension in here. Let's say let's make this 3 inches wide. And let's create another. Nope, I'm already out of extrusion. Let's edit that again. Do another one. I'm going to go ahead and lock everything again. And make it also 3 inches wide. And then green check it. So now I look at this. If I go to a right side view, it's the standard 1 foot thickness, and it's floating back and forth. Now I can apply a dimension here as well. So I can go to dimension, from a reference plane to here, from the end of it to another reference plane. So if I select it, I can't adjust it. What I can do is create a parameter which will control this dimension. Let's call it offset. Do another 3 inches for the offset. This may fail on me. So now that offset should always stay 3 inches from the end. So now if I change the depth front to back, the offset stays the same no matter what the depth is front to back. So you can see now I've got a little boxy looking thing with legs roughly for the stand. You can create more shapes on top of this. So I can go to my front view. Let's do some feet-like looking legs. I'll lock the 2 tops together. I'm going to give it a dimension inside here. Blind. Let's make it 4. A little bit higher, 6 inches. Green check it. go to my right side view, and now I can see, here's my extrusion. I'm going to bring it front to back, lock the front, and lock the back one as well. So I can see I have my geometry intersecting each other. And if you have geometry intersecting and you want to make it so it looks like it's one piece, you can join the two together. So with the geometry join command, I can click join, select the two profiles, and it will join them together, making it look like one continuous shape.